This is episode 36 with Tony DUrso.
Welcome to Men of Abundance, the podcast for those looking to level up their lives by hanging out with some of the greatest leaders and established professionals in our community, living a life of integrity, honor, and the abundance mentality. Prepare to pay it forward with your host, former Army medic turned lifestyle entrepreneur, Wally Carmichael.
What's up, Men of Abundance? Today we have Tony DUrso on the line and another amazing conversation. Before we get into that conversation, I want to thank all of you who have been sharing Men of Abundance, who have gone to iTunes and subscribed and left a rating and review. If you have not had a chance yourself to go leave a rating and review on iTunes or whatever platform you're listening to this show on, I want to thank you ahead of time for leaving an honest review. I would rather you leave an honest review, whether it's 3 stars, 4 stars, 5 stars, or even 1 star. I want your honest feedback. Yes, 5-star reviews, 4-star reviews, they are good for ratings and they do push the show up in the rankings. And I truly appreciate that. But more importantly, I really want to know what you think about the show. I really want to know what content you would rather have on the show. And if you don't want to leave that review in iTunes, feel free to leave it at the bottom of any of the episodes. You can do so by leaving a comment under any one of the blogs or any one of the podcast episodes. Of course, you can also hit me up on Facebook or Twitter. Either way, I greatly appreciate your feedback. It is very helpful. Speaking of feedback, I have to commend my son. My son sat in the car and listened to one of my episodes with me on our way to school the other day. And as he got out of the car, he gave me some very valuable feedback. And I've taken heed to that. My 17-year-old son gave me very honest feedback without hesitation. That's the kind of boy I'm raising, and I truly appreciate that feedback. Now, let me introduce Tony. In his career, Tony made impressive record-breaking sales into real estate, collectibles, insurance technology, and other varied industries. His accomplishments include raising $3.2 million in a 6-month period for a startup business, among many others. Currently, Tony is the radio show host of Revenue Chat Radio, which airs twice weekly and is syndicated on Blog Talk Radio, iTunes, YouTube, and others. The show is a popular attraction and booked 6 weeks in advance. Downloads and listens number in hundreds of thousands. And you can find out more about Tony at TonyDUrso.com/radio. Tony, welcome to Men of Abundance, brother.
Hey, thank you so much, Wally. I am very pleased to be here and honored, actually, to be a guest speaker here on Men of Abundance. This is cool.
Oh, thank you for that. Absolutely, yeah. I've got a pretty good thing going here. I get to talk to some amazing men and learn something every single time I get in a conversation, whether it's on my podcast or otherwise, because we always have our conversations outside the podcast as well. And by the way, it's not just men. I also talk to women as well. In fact, I have a couple scheduled coming up in a couple weeks. But where are you at in the world?
I'm in Southern California.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. I am Italian, as you probably mentioned in my bio somewhere here. Mm-hmm. I was born in Sicily, Italy. I grew up in Chicago, so you're going to get that. Sometimes that Chicagoan harsh accent comes out. But I've been in California pretty much most of my life now, all in all.
Nice. I dig it. I dig the various accents and people that I get to talk to and all the different accents and everything. So I like to start the show out the same way that I start my day, Tony, and that is with an attitude of gratitude. What do you have to be grateful for today?
You know, that's a really good way to start out the day, and I don't always do it, though usually later in the day sometimes, but I always try hard to be appreciative of what's good. And by focusing on what's good, we get more of it. And I have to say, I am really, truly grateful for my best friend and wife, who I think is really my better half, actually my best half. And, you know, I'm serious. Who knows where I'd be without her? If I could put it this way, she's like my greatest asset. I've never met anyone that flows me so much power and gives me the kind of respect that she does. And, you know, even after all of these years, I am just amazed at how how she reveres me. It's amazing. Now, I am not an emotional person, Wally, on one hand, even though I'm Italian. But I can't stress enough to say how important it is to have a good relationship and how that sets the stage in a way. And I'd be glad to give pointers on that to anyone. It's just awesome. She is my super person. She's always there when I've need. We've been together. We're actually having our wedding anniversary later this month. She's just always there when I need. She's amazing. And I'm also very, very much in gratitude of, since doing my show, well, actually even before, I just had this growing number of real and true friends. It's just a dream come true. I have this abundance of A-list guests wanting to be on my show. I have abundance, Wally, of anything and everything that's of importance. It's really serious. I'm really serious about it. It's just awesome. I'm just having a good life, and I am very grateful for all of that.
Isn't that amazing? I mean, first, I commend you for giving such a shout out and being so grateful for your better half, your wife, because I'm exactly the same way. But the people that we get a chance to communicate with and connect with, and I always say, and many have said before us, that your network is, in fact, your net worth. And when I say net worth, I don't mean just in a monetary sense. I mean in an emotional sense, and in just your standards are at a higher level when you're associating with people of abundance. And like Jim Rohn always says, you are in fact an average of the 5 people that you spend the most time with. And that's just another reason why I like getting on the line with people like you.
Well, thank you. Yes, very cool. And it is so true. I talk about it in some of my shows and episodes. It's what you surround yourself with that you wind up manifesting and becoming. So if you surround yourself with people that you look up to, think are awesome, think are cool, think are intelligent, bright, whatever, you wind up taking on those qualities by surrounding yourself with it. And I'll probably talk a little bit more about this later on in the show on some points. But it really, truly happens that way. And I can't stress this enough to your audience. You want to pull yourself up. You want to learn what does it take. Start surrounding yourself with what you think are people that you want to become when you grow up.
We will certainly be talking about that throughout the show. And before we get into that, I gave a very brief bio just before the show got started about you. I talked very briefly about you, but I want to hear it from you. I would like to hear a little bit about your background, where you're coming from, a little bit about where you're at now, because we're going to go into that in the show, but let's get a little bit personal.
Well, sure, Wally. Thank you. All right. Well, I'm Italian, and but I can say that probably if I had to kind of give you the short bio, I would say that all of the past many years of going through the School of Hard Knocks, and by the way, I am a PhD in that, has helped get me to where I'm going now. I got very fortunate because I have been working since the age of 5 years old when I was a paper route boy. Now, this is not probably legal anymore, Wally, but it was great for me, and it really taught me the value of earning $1. It taught me the value of a buck. I did that for 10 years, believe it or not, as a child, and it helped pay my way through grammar school, which was a parochial school, and it would have a monthly fee. I actually paid for that as a kid. They can't do it anymore, and the kids, that is. And the lessons I learned in those years, it was so good in the formation of my character that it's a sad commentary that kids can't do that. They can't work when they're young, because I think it really teaches them and prepares them for the world once they step into adulthood. I think it's a great character builder, even if you can, your kid can do it for free or do anything. It just really helps give them morals and ethic value as well. So I can't stress that enough. Also, I've written a few books about sales and marketing, and I also wrote a fiction book. My last book, Easy Sales Procedures, is now out and available on Amazon. I'd like to tell you a couple more things about that later in this interview. If you go to Tony DUrso.com, there's a books tab, tell you a little bit more about my books. And there's also an about tab, give you a little bit more info about me. But I would say that's a short bio.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great. That's exactly what I was looking for, too. We'll certainly be getting into a little bit more about your book as well. And, I, too, worked at a very young age. I can't say it was as early as 5, but I worked at a very young age. And I was just having this conversation with a neighbor of mine that one of the jobs, how I used to go selling candy door to door. But I think some kids do that once in a while, but it was really creepy when I think about it, because it was this guy that would come pick us up in a white van and take us out to a neighborhood where we could sell candy, because there certainly wasn't selling any in the neighborhood I lived in. And he would drop us off on a corner and then say, "Be back here in an hour." And I just couldn't imagine letting my kids go do something like that with anybody, let alone in some creepy white van.
Unfortunately, we have to be very wary of that in this day and age. But if there is a way to do it while making sure that the child is safe, I just can't say enough that it kind of like grounds you and sets the stage for your life, I think.
And that's one of the things that we get into as we grow up and as adults and we have kids, is we want our kids to have a better life than we did. But then it's kind of a vicious circle, because we are who we are today because of the experiences that we had and those adversities and those hard times. So it's almost like we're sheltering the kids away from truly living the life that we did and making us the people that we are today. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, unfortunately, and I really not against the way things are going today, but with schools teaching the morals, ethics, values to the children instead of the parents, because both parents work these days, it kind of lets things slide. And somehow this, the kids seem to think that they're more entitled to getting rewards, food, shelter, than working for it or exchanging for it. And I think that mindset kind of sets in. And I'd love to see that kind of get taken back out again, because it's not healthy for society. It's not healthy for the kids. It's not healthy where people think that they must have, that they're entitled, that they're supposed to get XX or such and such, and they don't have to exchange for it. Yet when you do work for something, you learn, and I think that's the key pivotal word here, Wally, is exchange. You learn that you do something, you provide a service or product, you get something back in return that you consider is valuable. It doesn't have to be exactly the same. It could be less valuable, it could be more, but you consider it's valuable, as they did, centuries ago in the barter systems and so forth. But you exchange something, and that's part of it. And I think that's missing in society, where too many people on the dole, and it's growing. And by that mindset has to change, Wally.
Yeah, most definitely. And all we can do is do our own part with our own kids. And that's what I'm certainly doing with my boys. I've got one that's 22. He's off and doing his thing already. I've got a 17-year-old who's very entrepreneurial mindset. He's specifically working on a specific business that he wants to build, and then my 7-year-old is learning from that as well. So, all I can say is we can only do our own part. We can't expect anybody else to raise our kids for us if we want them to be raised in that type of environment.
So true, Wally, but you have the right mindset. It's a one-on-one scenario. It's not changing, a billion people. It's changing them one. By you instructing your kids and others instructing their kids, we can reform, let's call it a better society, or more idealistic in terms of exchange, and less of, give that to me because I'm supposed to have it sort of attitude. Which I think we're going to talk about in just a little bit, when you're going to ask me the one question I'm going to dread the most.
Exactly, and we're going to get into that right now, because we were just talking about our adversities and whatnot, and I would love for you to share. I know we had this conversation, but the reason why I do this kick in the gut moment, and a kick in the gut moment, is because I want men to realize that while everybody's situation is different, we all basically have that kick in the gut moment. Some of us have several, and some of it seems like it's just never ending. But we do all have that kick in the gut moment in life, and then we have that pivot point, and that's the point where we're trying to get to, that enough is enough. That's it. I'm going to make a change. And that's when you have to finally hunker down and do something about it. But I would like to hear at this point and share your story and your kick in the gut moment.
Well, I understand the value of why you asked that question, and I understand the lessons that people are going to learn. But you got to admit it's a bit of a dichotomy and an oxymoron from talking about abundance and having all this good stuff. But now all of a sudden, here we are. We're going to talk about terrible, worst time of our life. Well, here we go. First, I want to make it clear again. I'm sure I did. I'm not the type of person that likes to grumble or complain. I don't like to say anything negative about anyone. And I had to kind of bone up a little and gear up for this question. I knew it was coming because it goes across my normal nature. However, it is an important story, so I'll do the best that I can on it, Wally. Now, to tell you about the worst time of my life, I have to start with the best time of my life. And this is a time period, well, I was extremely affluent. I got to the point where I had a custom-built house on a golf course, if you can imagine that. The mayor of the city was down the block, and a congressman, an actual congressman, was my neighbor. My house was big. It was huge. I had 5 bedrooms and an office. It was brand new. It was built from scratch to my specifications, and it was my dream house. I designated one room as a library, another room was going to be my exercise room, another room was going to be for crafts and projects, that my wife likes to do at times, and of course we would have a guest bedroom. Well, the house was finally completed, and it was a very big moment for us. We were thrilled, and the landscaping alone was a marvel to the neighborhood. It was extremely expensive in the 6 digits. People would come by, take photographs, and try to mirror, duplicate some aspect of it with their home. It was really a nice home. It was considered a model home of the neighborhood of sorts. Well, at this time, my mother-in-law was working 2 jobs. She would get up at 5 a.m. to go to work, and she'd return at 11 p.m. And on top of that, my father-in-law was extremely sick and disabled. So at this point, I thought, hey, I've got this big, beautiful house. I should be gracious and invite them to move in with us. This way she'd only have to work 1 job and she could actually have a life. And I thought, I should do this. I thought, I've got it, so I should offer it. So I did. She was thrilled, and she moved in right away, and she sold her house. Well, no problem. That was cool. And I paid for everything. I paid for, dry cleaning, food, house cleaning, dinner out, vitamins, going to the doctor, whatever it was. I paid for everything. No problem. Well, the rest of our family felt entitled as well. And bit by bit, they started moving in. Well, within a year, I could be wrong, maybe it was a little more, but it seems like it wasn't that long at all. By the time all was said and done, all the bedrooms were taken. And we had 7 people and 2 dogs living in the house. It started to get crazy. It's a true story. And I paid for everybody. I paid for everything. If I went out to dinner with my wife, I made sure that everybody had the dinners, or I would order food for them, whatever. I just really took care for everybody. I had the money. I was affluent. It was all great. And they all did their thing during the day. But I found myself, when everyone was gone, I'd found myself running around after the puppy, cleaning up for him during business hours, because I worked from home in my home office. No one else did it. And it was just kind of determined that it was my job. And then the complaints started to come in. This was not good. That was not good. This was wrong. Something was wrong here. It was a hassle to get in through the security gates. The this, the that. It was a long drive from wherever. Just complaints. Nothing was good enough. And there was no appreciation, or let me just say, I shouldn't say no, I should say insignificant. Nearly everyone left their lights and TVs blaring all day unless I followed them around. I shut them off when they left, and my electric bill was out the roof. And I threw parties for everybody's birthday, graduation, anniversary, and they were generally well-catered events. And everyone acted like they were entitled, and they had everything free. Okay. The complaints continued to come in, and I started getting treated like some leper who was only tolerated for as long as everything was paid for. It was starting to get weird, and I never got to enjoy my brand new perfect house. And I found myself after a little while, I just began starting to visualize that I would someday leave and rent an apartment because I still wanted my own space. My business started to collapse. It became harder and harder to do sales and take care of clients while I'm running around taking care of everyone else. Now, I want to make it very clear. It was my fault. I invited them, and the parade came. What can I say? But it did become a horrible mess. And my wife joined me in on the misery and wanted out of there. We had no time to ourselves. We had no solace. It was really bad. So when the housing market collapsed, I took action. My $1.25 million house was seriously upside down. The lead generation business at the time also collapsed overnight with the housing market. And I faced serious financial crisis from all fronts, and something had to give. Well, after many years of dwindling income, struggling, and growing complaints about this house, and I know it sounds weird, how could you complain about a brand new, perfect, custom-built house? But believe me, it was just awful complaints all the time. I finally decided, well, I'm just going to let this dream house go. It's not serving me any good. It's not doing anything. But I still had to take care of everybody. So I moved everyone into a 4-bedroom house with a big backyard and pool, but the entitlement continued and got worse. My business continued to get worse and worse and fell apart. And here's the rub, Wally, when I needed money to help with the rent, I usually got a cold shoulder or an indifferent attitude. And usually I was told that their money was going to other more important things. It was such a rub in the face, especially when they would go out to entertainment functions, which usually cost, a few $100s per ticket, while I'm scrambling badly trying to earn a few dollars to make rent and pay utilities for their comfort. And it got as bad as someone threw a temper tantrum behind my back one time when I asked the mother-in-law for a small amount of money to help me make rent. The person thought they should get the money for their pleasure instead. Well, all in all, even though I probably saved everybody, this was many years this went on. I probably saved everybody something in the neighborhood of $500,000 by paying for everything, paying the rent or insurance, whatever. But again, I must say, I gave without asking for much in return unless I was backed into a corner. I don't consider they owe it to me, just I didn't get that help when I needed it, and that was what I had trouble dealing with. So at one point, my business continued to dwindle so bad I couldn't even afford the rent on that size house anymore, and we had to move out. Now, since then, my wife and we moved out on our own. Her family mostly forgot my name. Their memory stopped when the funding stopped, unfortunately. But my wife and I, we've had our own place for years, and we're having the time of our life. I consider it's a nonstop adventure. It just gets better and better. And I do insist she maintains relations with her side of the family, and that's all fine. And, it is what it is, it hasn't changed my nature, and, but I would say it was the worst time of my life, especially when you have your dream and you want to share it with others, and then it just starts crumbling. It was a very, I would say, gut-wrenching time of my life.
And do you think that they intentionally moved to that side of basically indifference and entitlement? Did they start out that way? Were they that type of people before, or did it just kind of perpetuate based on the time going by and them being catered to, basically?
Well, that's a good question, because they're all good people, and my mother-in-law I consider a very fine person, and she did what she could, but she as well as the others got into doing other things with their funds and had issues when I needed help, because I just don't understand. I just wish I could explain why and how that happens. And I really don't have an answer for it, but it's just, I guess, just the way people are brought up, or they think, sometimes they think what's mine is mine and what's yours is mine, sort of thing. And I don't understand it. I wish I could say more about that, Wally.
Say, for instance, you have somebody who is comfortable in their job and they just do this one or two things, and then somebody else comes along and asks them to do one other thing outside of what they normally do, well, then they get pissy about it because you're breaking their norm. They're used to this way of life. And like you said, they're good people, but this is what happens on a greater sense in society. And I don't really want to get into the whole thing necessarily in this show, but it does point out the fact that when people are giving things without putting in the work and truly deserving the things that they're given, the lifestyle, whatever it is, they get that entitlement mentality. And as soon as somebody asks them for any assistance to even help them, to lift a finger, then their whole mindset has already changed to that point to where there's no return, and they start complaining, and it just perpetuates. And it creates individuals, and this is like we were talking about earlier with our children, we're creating people who don't want to work for themselves. They think everything should be given to them, and it's just a sad state of affairs to watch.
It's so true, and it's hard for me to change my nature. I believe so much in I would rather give than receive. It's just, I can't even tell you where it comes from, Wally. It's just, and probably going to address this a little bit later on, but it just feels so good. I'm not going to stop. I just know it's right, and I'm not trying to make anybody bad. I'm not trying to make anybody entitled. If I have some wealth, I'm happy to share it. I'm happy to give. I give to charities. I can't tell you how much I have given in terms of my furniture, jewelry, watches, all sorts of stuff. I just like to give. It feels good, and I'm going to continue doing it. Just, but people just have to understand that there's a point where one needs to turn around and give back.
Agreed, absolutely. And, it is wonderful to give. But sometimes, even if we're in a position to where we can give in resources and funds, I still think that the best thing to give, regardless, is knowledge. It goes back to the old adage of give a man a fish, you feed him for a day, you teach a man to fish, you feed him for life. And that's kind of where I'm coming from in my show, is trying to give people the knowledge and give people basically introduce people to you and men like you that they can resonate with and go to for additional information for whatever direction they want to go.
That's so true, Wally, and I firmly agree, and I'm on the same side on that with my show, Revenue Chat Radio. I just love giving knowledge to people and helping people, and I get testimonials and I get really great things from people that's, emails and fans, love stuff.
Well, that's perfect. Let's get into that. What is Revenue Chat Radio? Let's talk a little bit about that and what you're doing with it.
Well, sure. Let's see. Probably if I just pick up where I left off when that earlier event was happening, and I was scrambling for income, at the time I was deep into the lead generation business, and with the sour economy, it brought out the worst kind of people in the industry. I just didn't have it from the in-laws now, but I just started dealing with people who wound up, they had no compunction about lying. They were taking advantage of others. It was so sobering to find out how much lies, deceit, and lack of ethics existed in that industry. I was dealing with offshore companies. I was constantly signing contracts with clients to supply leads, and immediately things would go wrong with these offshore centers, and I would lose the clients as fast as I would sign them up. It was nonstop. It was like they were just so unscrupulous. It was like, it just boggled my mind. How could somebody do this? And then on top of that, I had a constant change of regulations in the industry. For example, one day I went into the office on a Monday. My biggest client, whom I was generating over $1 million annually in sales, sent in a cancellation notice. Why? Because there was a new regulation that changed how I provided that type of service. That happened 4 times in 7 years, Wally, and that got very old and stressful. And so I had no choice. I felt that the universe simply did not want me to continue on the existing path. I had to change. It's kind of weird to say, this inner voice, but it just started growing strong, and I actually paid attention to it. And this voice said, create my own products and services. And I'm thinking, What could I create and do? All my life, I've sold things, presented things on behalf of other people. And so I started to think, well, what can I do? I've went over this with my wife, and I was looking for what can I create? What can I do? Well, one day I found out about radio and podcasts, and I took the dive. Starting from scratch, learning by the seat of my pants, I started getting into podcasts and radio. I created revenue chat radio. I learned as I went. My first shows for a couple months were live on Blog Talk Radio, hence the radio designation title. Those were fun, but the audio quality was terrible. I eventually left BTR and channeled everyone to go to my website to listen to the shows. I interviewed CEOs, entrepreneurs, small to medium-sized business owners. I interviewed best-selling authors, experts in sales, marketing, leadership, and I wound up getting A-level guests, big names, James Rickards, Todd Herman, Mitch Russo, and others. I eventually got up to 100,000 plus visitors monthly on my site. The shows began reaching an average of 5,000 to 10,000 downloads per episode. And in fact, while I'm hitting my 1-year anniversary soon, and I'm kind of thinking of putting together a special show for that, but it just started blossoming and blossoming, and it just became more popular. And here I am, Revenue Chat. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, it's amazing how I hear those stories and how you built that basically from, just the knowledge that you already had, but you had no knowledge whatsoever in radio or podcast. And that's basically where I started out, but I had a mentor. Did you have somebody helping you through it all? Any mentors? Who were you following to learn any of this stuff?
Well, I didn't know where to go or what to do, and I saw that somebody was on Blog Talk Radio, so I went there. And for anybody that's new, Blog Talk Radio has a list of tutorials that takes you from the beginning, before you even have a show, all the way through to generating a show. So I went through every single one of their tutorials over a couple days, weeks, weekends, nights. I just devoured everything they had on podcast and just started. That mentored me all the way up to start.
So you mentioned that you received quite a few emails and people thanking you for your content and everything. Can you share one of your favorite good news stories with us?
Yes, I can. So many testimonials and reviews come in. It's like, I'm just loving it. Like this one says, great insight from a couple of real sales pros. Awesome techniques and strategies and systems to raise sales by 200 to 300% are discussed here, but the main ingredient, I think, is having a genuine and true interest in helping others. Adding value and developing long-term relationships is the secret sauce. Excellent content here. That's an example of one of the, another one says, Tony is bringing many different important aspects of generating revenue in my business. I'm really digging the info and the delivery. Oh, that's you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have gotten so much out of what your show has provided me personally, and I know how that feels. I just know how that feels to receive those emails just when I'm starting to like, is anybody listening? Why am I doing this? And then you get one of those emails just right on time, or one of those messages on your blog or on iTunes or whatever, and it's like, oh my goodness, I needed that right then and there.
Yeah, I mean, I could give you a couple more if you wanted. It's just heaven. This is why I do what I do, is to hear that I'm helping people and showing them the path from my experience and others' experience, and helping give them a better life. This is just awesome.
Well, perfect, and that is a great segue into what we're getting ready to do, which is to pay it forward. Are you ready for that?
Okay.
So what I'd like for you to do is to give Men of Abundance 1 to 3 actionable steps that they can take today.
Well, number one, if you don't mind the repeat, I think the most important thing to do is really check out one of my shows. You can download them onto your mobile phone. You can listen at your leisure. I also have a mobile app, and I am on iTunes. And the shows give actionable takeaways and insights that you can use right now. I highly stress it. That's one. Number two, we talked about this a lot. Give something that will help people or help someone without the thought of giving in return. Especially if you have a charity, give them something. If you don't, try mine. My favorite nonprofit organization is that of Kevin Richardson, the Lion Whisperer. His trust is called the PAW Conservation Trust. And actually, my legacy is to leave most of my estate to them and at least 2 other animal wildlife funds that I have ascertained thus far. And the reason I say that this is something important, because you're setting your future to keep giving. You're setting yourself way out there. And by that, you're bringing in a lot more abundance into you because you're flowing it. Let me make this very, very clear. It's not abundance if it just sits there. If you just take your money and run and hide it, put it in your wallet or put it in the bank or stuff it away somewhere and never see it again, nothing happens. You have to use it. You have to flow it. So figure out where your money's going to flow later, and give to good charities. That's number 2. Number 3, and this kind of ties in all the steps, and I've talked about this here and there. I highly recommend you listen to my EP 58 with Millen Livis, the Prosperity Goddess, about empowering yourself to live an abundant and free life. You'll find it at TonyDUrso.com/radio. The reason I bring this up is so that you can increase your income and your wealth in your life, and you can do it without spending a dime. I'm serious, because there are distinct and definite forces in this universe that will give you what you want if you know how to do it. I even talk about this in my book, and we discuss it thoroughly in this episode, and I highly recommend everyone check it out. It will change your life immediately once you start applying this information.
Excellent. I do not believe I've listened to that specific episode, but I will certainly make a note to do that today, in fact. What daily habits make up the biggest impact in your life?
Well, I'm very orderly and disciplined, and I run things very simple, but and I thank you for asking, Wally, because I think it's pretty cool. The first thing I do every day is I answer any communications that anyone has of me. I answer all my emails. Then I go into my social network, and I look to see who's got a birthday. I wish them happy, have a great day. I look for interesting posts to comment. And I truly just want to spread happiness and love. I know it might sound a little airy-fairy, but I just want to spread good cheer around the world. And anyone that's got a new job or something cool, I congratulate them. And I reach out as much as I can during the morning. And then I take, lunch. And then after lunch, I'm, go flat out onto editing or producing my shows, which air a few times a week.
Beautiful. I absolutely love that. Other than the books you've already recommended, and they can be the same books as well, what book would you recommend to our abundant leaders and why?
There's 2 books that I want to recommend. Now, one is my book on sales and marketing called Easy Sales Procedures, which you can find on Amazon, and I'll tell you why. Chapter 2 goes into establishing your purpose, working out your goal, and setting up actions to attain them. I cannot stress this enough. Some business coaches charge literally thousands of dollars to sort this out with their clients. You can do it yourself using this book, and I have drills there as well that you can perform to get it all worked out. And if you want more help on that, hire me, and I can address your company too on this whole subject of goals, purposes, and how to accomplish them. And there's other goodies in this book, such as Simple Secrets to Abundance. And you only have to read, understand, and apply it. And if you have questions or need help, ask me. But the other book, which is earth-shattering to me, is called Beach Money by Jordan Adler. His chapters 2 and 3 about the life journal is worth tens of thousands. This is a must read. It will change your life if you listen to what he says about the life journal, read and apply it. Absolutely amazing.
That is an amazing book, actually, and I do have to bring that one out again. I got to find it. I've got it in a box somewhere. It is a great book, and I'll definitely be looking into your book as well, of course. I have one last question for you, and you've answered this in sorts, but I haven't asked it directly, and that is, what does living a life of abundance mean to you? That's
a good one. And I might shock people. I don't know, because sometimes my views shock people, but it means having all you want. but not being greedy. I say this as loud and as possible and as clear as can be. There is plenty for everyone. There is no lack. Share with others. There's plenty for you. And above all, it means give out love and help others. There's an inexhaustible supply. Use it. That's what it's there for. What do I mean? I mean, you could keep loving and keep helping others, and you still have more in you to keep helping others. It's inexhaustible. And the more you use it, the more that comes back to you, because it's all a matter of flows. And your own abundance will grow, not because you're not doing it on purpose to get more abundance, but it just happens to be the way the universe works, Wally. The more you give out, the more comes back to you.
Very good answer. I absolutely love that. And I'm going to chime in on that one, because as based on what we were talking about earlier in the show, in that some people, when some people are just in the mindset to think that if you earn more money, you're taking away from somebody else. And that's just not the case. There's an abundance of everything. It's just a matter of what you do with what you have. And giving back as you see fit, rather in treasures, talents, or time. It's completely up to you. But that giving back does, in fact, bring more into your life. But the mindset I want men of abundance to get away from is that in order for you to have more, you have to be taking away from somebody else. And that is simply not true.
True. And may I say, I had a fantastic guest on my show. I had everyone's fantastic, but Bob Lancer, love the method. He's on one of my shows. Amazing. And he taught me something awesome, which is when you give out something, when you pay your bill, when you spend money to buy some food, be grateful that you have that. And that gratitude brings more back to you. It's an interesting little drill to get yourself into, a little bit of a discipline, but it's amazing in application and results.
Excellent. So before I let you go, Tony, would love for you to leave us with any parting piece of guidance and how we can reach you.
Sure. Let's see here. I say follow your inner voice. Do what makes you happy. Follow that voice, because it will lead you to your dreams. Just make sure to keep it aligned with the greater good or a higher power. You just can't run around and take things from any store you want because it makes you happy. So you have to align it with the greater good or a higher power. Follow your dreams, go for being happy, and you're going to have the time of your life. And you asked how to reach me. Let's see. You can reach me at the bottom of my site, Tony DUrso.com. At the bottom of just about every page is a contact form. You can contact me there, or email me at tonydurso.com. Those are the simplest methods.
Excellent. And I'll have all of those links for you guys out there, Men of Abundance. I'll have all of those links as usual in our show notes, and that will be at menofabundance.com/036. menofabundance.com/036. Tony, it's been an amazing conversation. I absolutely enjoyed this conversation with you, and I look forward to chatting with you more in the future.
Wally, I want to thank you very much for having me on. I interview a lot of people, and I usually don't, I'm usually not the interviewee. I'm usually the interviewer, but it's wonderful. You're a great host. You've got a fantastic show. I wish you all the power and all the support and all the well wishes for your success.
Excellent. I truly appreciate that, Tony.
Well, great. Thank you again.
All right. Have a good day.
Thank you, sir.
All right, Abundant Leaders, that's all I have for you today. I truly appreciate your time. If you're getting anything out of this, make sure you pay it forward and share this with your community. Now go out and live your life of abundance and make sure to pay it forward.
That's all for today, Abundance Leaders. For more about our guests and the powerful information we shared with you today, be sure to sign up for our mailing list at menofabundance.com. We appreciate your time and look forward to hanging out with you on our next episode. So until then, be sure to pay it forward and live your life of abundance.